Man, Tom Brady finally couldn't take it anymore, and he decides to go off on Shedeur Sanders and his supporters. He is going to explain on this video clip that I'm about to explain and play on why he doesn't like Shedeur and why he didn't select him for the NFL Draft. And thank you, Tom, for proving me correct about you. Shout out to the supporters and the content creators who release.
Don't skip a single second of this video. And if this story touches your heart, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments. Where are you watching from? Let's begin. Man, I still can't believe what we just heard. Tom Brady, the golden boy of the NFL, the so-called greatest of all time, caught in the middle of one of the dirtiest stories we've seen in years. And this isn't some harmless rumor. This isn't clickbait drama. This is a bombshell that's shaking Raider Nation to its core, and it's got the entire football world questioning everything we thought we knew about the GOAT. Think about it. For 2 decades, Brady was painted as the ultimate professional, the clean-cut leader, the man who sacrificed, who worked harder than everyone else, who embodied the Patriot way. He was the model every coach told their young quarterbacks to study. And now we're finding out that the same guy who preached team values might have been pulling strings in the shadows, sabotaging a rookie's dream before it even began. That rookie is Shedeur Sanders, a quarterback who carried not just hype but hope. Hope for a new generation of players. Hope for the Raiders, who desperately needed a spark. Hope for fans who wanted to see someone bring fire and swagger back to a franchise starving for identity. But instead of that hope, Raider Nation is left with whispers of secret meetings, backroom politics, and Brady's fingerprints all over the decision-making process. And that's what makes this so wild. Because Tom Brady isn't just another former player hanging around the league. He's not some washed-up vet giving takes on a podcast. He's a minority owner. He's got influence, he's got connections, and now we're hearing he might have used all that leverage not to build the Raiders up, but to keep Shedeur Sanders out. Let that sink in. The most decorated quarterback of all time, quietly working against the next generation of quarterbacks, while smiling for the cameras and pretending he's got nothing to do with it. And the deception, that's what cuts the deepest. Publicly, Brady said he wasn't part of the evaluation process. He told the media flat out, "I wasn't involved." But behind closed doors, reports say he was in Vegas, sitting with the coaching staff, watching tape, giving input. He was in the room where decisions got made. And that matters, because when Brady walks into a building, his presence isn't casual. His opinion isn't just one voice. It's the voice. The weight of 7 Super Bowls, 3 MVPs, and 2 decades of dominance carries more influence than any scouting report or combine grade. So when Brady says something about a quarterback, when he plants a seed of doubt, it doesn't just sit in the air. It grows, it spreads. And when that quarterback is Shedeur Sanders, a player already under the microscope, already facing critics who doubt his style, his confidence, his fit, Brady's quiet disapproval can become the loudest voice in the room. And that's why this isn't just another NFL headline. This is a scandal that could change the way fans look at Brady forever. Raider Nation is furious. NFL fans are furious. And for good reason. Because this wasn't just about a draft pick. This was about power, influence, a legend shaping the future of a franchise, while pretending his hands were clean. And if this is what Brady was doing with Shedeur Sanders, you have to wonder, what else has he been doing behind the curtain? Let's talk about Shedeur Sanders. Because before all the chaos, before the draft day collapse, before the whispers about Tom Brady's influence, Shedeur wasn't just another quarterback prospect. He was the headline. He was the story. He was the guy carrying a spotlight so bright that every NFL fan knew his name before his name was ever called. At Colorado, Shedeur didn't just play quarterback. He changed the atmosphere. Week after week, he put the Buffaloes on his back and delivered moments that felt bigger than life. Over 3,200 yards passing, nearly 30 touchdowns, a quarterback rating that had analysts shaking their heads, wondering how a kid with that much composure could stay so steady behind one of the worst offensive lines in college football. And let's not forget the swagger, the watch flex, the calm stare into the camera, the quiet but undeniable confidence that made every highlight reel feel like a message to the entire football world. I belong here. I'm built for this. And that's what stings the most, because you'd think a player like that, a leader who elevated a struggling team, who drew millions of eyeballs to a program that hadn't been relevant in decades, would be the type of quarterback NFL teams line up to draft. You'd think owners and GMs would fight over him, desperate to get their hands on a young player who could change the energy of a locker room and put fans in the seats. But instead, we watched Shedeur slide. Not once, not twice, 7 times. 7 opportunities the Raiders had to take him. 7 times they passed. And that wasn't just a draft day disappointment. It was a gut punch. Because everyone knew the Raiders needed a quarterback. Everyone knew the franchise was desperate for stability. Everyone knew Shedeur's resume stacked up with, if not surpassed, the guys taken ahead of him. Yet when the moment came, they looked the other way. Again, and again and again. So what happened? How does a player hyped as a top 10 pick fall all the way into the 5th round? How does a guy who put up numbers, who carried a brand, who showed leadership and maturity beyond his years, get treated like an afterthought? Something doesn't add up, because if this was really about football, if this was really about evaluating talent, Shedeur Sanders would have been off the board in the first 30 minutes, no question. And that's where the frustration boils over, because this wasn't just the system working, it was the system protecting itself. It was the NFL sending a message. We don't care about your stats. We don't care about your leadership. We don't care about your confidence. You don't fit our mold. And when Raider Nation saw their team, a franchise starving for a savior, pass on him not once but 7 times, fans knew this wasn't just coincidence. This was calculated. Shedeur Sanders was more than a draft pick. He was a symbol of change. A young quarterback daring to bring individuality, culture, and swagger into a league that still punishes players for not fitting inside the box. And instead of celebrating that, the system shut the door in his face. But here's the thing about Shedeur Sanders. Doors close, and he finds another way in. That's what makes this story far from over. Because Shedeur didn't need the Raiders to prove he belongs. He just needed someone to give him a shot. And that's where this saga takes its next wild turn. Here's where the story gets downright dirty. Because if you peel back the layers of this whole mess, you start to see Tom Brady's fingerprints everywhere. Secret meetings, late-night evaluations, quiet whispers in front offices, and then the cherry on top, public denials to the media, delivered with that same calm Brady smile he's been flashing for 20 years. But this time, that smile looks fake. It looks like cover. Let's start with the facts. The Raiders' own general manager, John Spicea, admitted it. He said, when we're looking at quarterbacks, we'd have to be fools not to involve Tom. And not just a little involvement. Spicea revealed he spent an entire day with Brady, side by side, breaking down tape, going through evaluations before the draft. That's not background noise. That's not, oh, Tom just popped in to say hello. That's a man at the center of the process. But what did Brady do when people started asking questions? He went on Logan Paul's podcast, in front of millions, and flat out lied. He said, I wasn't part of any evaluation process. Word for word. Just like that. And now we've got the receipts to prove otherwise. Think about how bold that is. To be in those meetings, to watch the film, to influence decisions, and then to go on a microphone and deny it ever happened. That's not just dishonesty. That's gaslighting the entire football world. And it doesn't stop there. Because Brady didn't just evaluate quarterbacks. He made sure to take little shots, subtle ones. Shots at quarterbacks who celebrate the wrong way. Shots at guys who don't look like him, don't play like him, don't fit his idea of what a quarterback should be. Remember when he said he always watched who QBs celebrated with after a touchdown? That team-first talk sounds noble on the surface. But when he starts sneering at six-shooter guns and crowd point gestures, let's not kid ourselves. We know exactly who he's talking about. And here's the question we've got to ask. Was this really football critique? Or was it something more? Because history doesn't lie. We've seen this same coded language before. Cam Newton brought joy and swagger to the league, and he got labeled selfish. Lamar Jackson plays with creativity and electricity, and people said he wasn't really a quarterback. Even Patrick Mahomes, one of the most team-first leaders in the game, got questioned early because of his flair and personality. The pattern is undeniable. Swagger gets punished, confidence gets spun into arrogance, and it always seems to land hardest on young black quarterbacks. That's where Brady's so-called team-first philosophy looks less like wisdom and more like gatekeeping. Because when Joe Burrow dances, it's cool. When Trevor Lawrence flips his hair and celebrates, nobody says a word. But when Shedeur Sanders flexes his watch, suddenly he's self-promotional. Suddenly he's not about winning. That's not analysis. That's bias dressed up as leadership talk. So now we're staring at the truth. Brady wasn't just some bystander with opinions. He was a power player who lied to the public while shaping the draft behind closed doors. And the guys he chose to undercut weren't just quarterbacks. They were quarterbacks who dared to bring identity, personality, and culture to the game. And the real question we've got to ask is, if Brady was willing to do all this to Shedeur Sanders, how many other quarterbacks has he been quietly shaping narratives against? This is where the story flips. Because after all the noise, all the politics, all the shots thrown at Shedeur Sanders' character, the kid finally stepped onto an NFL field. And guess what? Every doubt, every criticism, every so-called red flag disappeared the second the ball left his hands. Cleveland took a chance in the 5th round. And let's be real, that wasn't just a pick, that was a steal. Because in his very first preseason snaps, Shedeur didn't look rattled, didn't look like some late-round project. He looked like a quarterback who had been ready all along. 138 yards, 2 touchdowns, calm in the pocket, sharp decision-making, and that same quiet swagger we all saw at Colorado. The kind of performance that makes you shake your head and ask, how did 31 other teams miss this? How did the Raiders pass on him 7 times? And the response? Man, it was electric. Fans were buzzing. Social media lit up. LeBron James himself jumped in, giving Shedeur a shout-out. Think about that. One of the greatest athletes on the planet, recognizing a rookie QB before he's even officially started his career. Even Donald Trump, of all people, couldn't resist weighing in, blasting NFL owners for being stupid enough to pass on Sanders. When voices that different are all saying the same thing, you know you've touched a nerve. But here's what really matters. Shedeur wasn't just proving the critics wrong with numbers. He was proving them wrong with presence. That calm stare, that confidence in the huddle, that leadership that doesn't just show up in box scores. It shows up in how teammates respond to you. All those so-called character concerns that mysteriously leaked during the draft process vanished. Poof.
Because once Shedeur actually played, none of that narrative stuck. You can't argue with production. You can't deny leadership when you see it in real time. And that's why this feels like the start of something bigger. This isn't just a rookie getting his feet wet. This is the beginning of a revenge story. A player who was mocked, doubted, and disrespected, now carving his own path, writing his own legacy. Every throw he makes in Cleveland isn't just a pass, it's a statement. A message to every front office that said no. A message to Tom Brady and anyone else who thought they could quietly kill his career before it started. The NFL has always loved its redemption arcs. We've seen guys like Geno Smith bounce back from being written off. We've seen Jalen Hurts rise from a second-round afterthought to an MVP candidate. But what makes Shedeur's story different is that it's happening in real time, under a microscope, with an entire fan base rallying behind him. He's not just proving the scouts wrong, he's proving the system wrong. And right now, every sign points to this being just the beginning. Because if Shedeur Sanders is this composed, this effective, and this motivated in preseason, just imagine what he's going to look like once the real games start. This isn't just survival, this is the birth of a star. And the league better get ready, because Shedeur Sanders isn't here to fit into their mold. He's here to break it wide open. Let's strip this down to the core, because at the end of the day, this was never just about one draft pick. This was never just about the Raiders passing on Shedeur Sanders. No, this is about something so much bigger. This is about who gets to define leadership in the NFL, who gets celebrated, who gets suppressed, and whose version of the game gets to live on. Tom Brady's actions, the lies, the secret meetings, the subtle digs, they weren't just about Shedeur. They were about protecting an old image of quarterback play. The safe, polished, cookie-cutter version the league has celebrated for decades. The kind that tells you, don't be too loud, don't be too flashy, don't be too different, stay in line, play the part, smile for the cameras. But Shedeur Sanders, he's not built to fit in that box. He's built to break it open. And that's why this story matters. Because the NFL has always had its gatekeepers. Men with power, men with influence, deciding who belongs and who doesn't. But Shedeur's rise is proof that gatekeeping doesn't work when real talent steps on the field. You can lie in interviews. You can spread whispers about character concerns. You can try to bury a kid in the 5th round. But when the whistle blows and the ball's in his hands, the truth comes out. And the truth is this: Shedeur Sanders can play. The league wanted to question his swagger. The system wanted to punish his confidence. But those same traits are exactly what make him dangerous, exactly what make him a leader, exactly what make him the future of this league. Because Shedeur isn't afraid to shine. He isn't afraid to celebrate. He isn't afraid to be himself in a league that too often tells young black quarterbacks to tone it down. That's not arrogance. That's authenticity. And authenticity wins. So here's my bold prediction. The same way Brady used doubt as fuel for 20 years, Shedeur Sanders is about to do the exact same thing. This snub, this draft day freefall, this is going to light a fire that the NFL cannot put out. He's going to climb, week after week, game after game, until the same people who questioned him are forced to eat their words. And years from now, we're going to look back and say this wasn't the end of Shedeur's story. This was the beginning. The moment the league tried to bury him, and he started building his legacy instead. But here's the part they don't want you to hear. No gatekeeper, no owner, no legend can stop what's coming. Because talent like Shedeur's can't be silenced. Confidence like Shedeur's can't be dimmed. And a new wave of quarterbacks is here, whether the old guard likes it or not. So I'll leave you with this. Do you believe Shedeur can rewrite the narrative Brady tried to kill? Do you believe this so-called snub can turn into one of the greatest redemption stories in NFL history? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this story is just beginning, and I promise you it's about to get a whole lot bigger.